Coming to you from the Ground Zero radio station, this is the TeenTix Arts Podcast, but you can call us TAP for short. We're part of the Press Corps newsroom, which works to emphasize youth voices in art media. I'm Disha.
And I'm Carolyn, and we're this episode's hosts. As writers for the TeenTix newsroom, we both cover local arts events that are being shown right now. In this episode, we talk about the exciting events that are featured this October. Disha, what's on tap today?
We're going to cover a variety of arts events, from pandemic plays to museum reopenings and the Pacific Northwest Ballet's new virtual event. Starting off this episode, we're going to be talking about Simulmatics and the advent of data mining. Simulmatics is a data mining company you've probably never heard of, but created the basis of algorithms for social media platforms.
Jill Lepore is the author of a book discussing Simulmatics. She hosted a panel through Town Hall, Seattle. She and fellow historian Margaret O'Mara sat down before Zoom livestream to discuss her findings. I think it's very cool. I like fact-based, scientific-based things, but I also enjoy subjective and interpretive things, and both resonate with me in different ways. I feel like that is a good combination of those things, and I'm really interested in how far they can bring these types of collaborations of science and interpretation to arts media and social media.
Mm-hmm. If you've been watching a lot of documentaries that deal with a lot of the stuff Carolyn talked about, like The Social Dilemma on Netflix, you're definitely going to like Simulmatics. It expands on a lot of the topics that Social Dilemma talks about, and it is such an interesting concept, and there are so many stuff to talk about, like the algorithm and machine learning, the AI, and how a computer is built to trick you into engaging more through the algorithm. It's kind of insane. And we also throw out a lot of general terms in Simulmatics or in real life, but we don't actually know how they affect us or how to use them properly, and Simulmatics talks a lot about those as well. And through this, we also have time to talk about how technology develops and how it anticipates our next moves, so we can prepare beforehand to interpret these. And Simulmatics also talks about a lot of things like how technology affects depression and anxiety and suicide in teens, and I think it's really important to talk about these.
Yeah, I think that spending time to think about how technology already anticipates your next move and chooses for you is really important because of what I said earlier. I think technology and interpretation are very interesting, but sometimes those collide through having too much freedom, in my opinion. So when I have that freedom, I just don't know how to do something right, which is how the technology and fact-based part of me comes into play. And with a computer, it chooses for you, and it chooses the next 3 choices for you. So you have no idea what to do, and you're overwhelmed with all these things that you are supposed to like. And that's what makes what I was saying, what usually I'm subject to, even more severe, because it's like it doesn't put you in a real situation. And I feel like a lot of people who enjoy just digging into what that really means will enjoy that. And they're going to show us a theme overall of social media. And social media brings even more themes. People who share with you content, they want you to remember something in a certain way. And I feel like they also want you to take that to your life. And I feel like that's very important through exposing those truths and getting what you really need to get out of like the actual news and what you should be educating yourself about, getting that through media.
Mm-hmm. And media, honestly, right now has a lot of messaging and communication going on right now, or just like Carolyn said, is talking a lot about the themes that are present there. And something like that is very present in a lot of different art forms is theater. And one really big part of theater that is happening right now is the 10-minute musicals happening through the Rising Star Project at Fifth Avenue Theater.
These are plays that are performed quarantine style and are written by the KUOW radioactive teen writers that delve into life and teen perspective, and they give teens a voice. It's so cool that it's an opportunity for kids so that they have avenues for theater too. Putting show online is a test for the actors without others on stage with them and without knowing how to how to improvise and how to base your actions off of others and what they're showing. I think that showing the teen perspective, giving youth a voice is important in raising them in a way that they can also share that voice with the world through theater.
I think, like you said, it's super important about the teen voice and the teen perspective. And I love how the Rising Star Project is really emphasizing that for Fifth Avenue. Speaking of theater and theater on stage, theater in general for me is a fall/winter thing because it's colder outside. And I honestly feel like sitting in a theater with rows of people. With the pandemic right now, that is definitely not possible. But I really love that feeling of having your TeenTix ticket and you're sitting with your friends and making those really great memories. And because it's pandemic right now, theater has to be online for a lot of people to enjoy it and access it. And even though I believe theater is kind of meant to be in a stage space and to be shared through like connection and a presence, it's totally really important right now to be giving that in an internet space for sure.
Yeah, and it's also really interesting because it's so restricting. Like I was saying, they don't have any crewmates in the same way. They don't have anyone to support them as they're on stage. They don't have a crowd to show their reaction and encourage them to do certain things and discourage them from the things that aren't causing any reaction through a crowd. So I think it's really testing for those actors, and for youth that's important because they can grow and tell more stories through theater, and it inspires more people to do what they love through theater. And as you get older, that becomes your job. That becomes something that can create a stable income and create a place where you can be yourself and do what you love. And that is really being destroyed in some ways right now because of COVID. And a lot of people aren't getting the same opportunity because their crowd doesn't get to be in that area. So it's important that for youth who are going to grow into being that same person who are being affected, those same type of people who are being affected through COVID right now, can still get that opportunity, and they can, at a young age, still show their passion for theater.
And a lot of these plays talk about youth-centered topics, not just pertaining to youth, but how youth experience them, such as friendship, illness, depression, and so many more. And a lot of these topics are super immersed in the teen life right now and are targeted towards experiences kind of like ours. And so we can relate to these teens and these performances on such a deep level. And I think it's kind of amazing how these are portrayed, for sure.
Yes, I agree. It's a great way to have a platform for teens and their voices. And another virtual-based event that is happening right now for plays is the pandemic plays on 18th and Union. Pandemic plays were written during the pandemic, and they are about the pandemic. They're all one-act plays related to COVID-19. These creative plays portray a lot of things people are doing and feeling during these times.
They feature some really cool aspects like paper bag puppets, which are a really interesting way of showing COVID. And a lot of these creative ways are bringing in a lighter side to kind of portray these heavier topics such as illness and isolation. But all in all, they explore COVID in such a deep but easily digestible way so that we can relate to it too without feeling super subjected to a lot of these bigger stuff. It's really cool to see actors going back to their jobs and giving us these really awesome plays. I'm excited to see these plays. I love plays. I think maybe I mentioned this before, but I can't wait to just cozy up and watch them and spend some time really looking at the craft of acting. So yeah.
For sure. During these times too, art and expression is so important. And people really need to at least experience that themselves. They don't always get to express that in the same way, but finding culture in theater is really important and gives you, again, that platform to do it when you're older and be confident with showing everyone what you think and your opinion and your message to the world.
And especially giving it a space on the internet. Internet is supposed to be this kind of intimate connection between actors and their audience. You form a connection between the different messages that are being portrayed or just the acting in general. But during this time, it's super important that it's being on the internet so that people like me or like literally anyone who just loves theater can really experience this like never before. And during these times where we all just really want something to escape into, where escapism is so prevalent, we need theater, and the internet is a great outlet to have that. So definitely go check out the pandemic plays and 10-minute plays on the internet. I think it's great to just kind of indulge in your theater junkiness.
Yes, definitely. And another performative art that's going on through a TeenTix partner as well is Spotlight Poetry at Hugo House.
Yes. So I don't know about you, Carolyn, but I love Spotlight Poetry. I've been to a couple of Spotlight Poetries before. I think maybe one at Hugo House I've been to, but I really love the teen aspect of Hugo House, kind of unrelated to this. They have a great teen program there. But in general, for poetry is super therapeutic. And poetry and Spotlight Poetry is something that you can definitely look forward to these times. And poets that have been kind of spotlighted in this sort of medium are just really cool. And I'm really looking forward to enjoying poetry and the shows that they are going to give. A lot of the poetries that are in the Hugo House Spotlight Poetry have been in some really cool journals. A lot of them are really marketed really well. And so their themes and the poetry that they're going for have a lot of similarities. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I'm definitely just as excited as you. Poetry is really interesting for me, and that's what excites me because of the interpretive and abstract part of it. It's really just entirely dependent on perspective, and every person is going to have a different interpretation, and that's how it's made to be interpreted too. It's not made for an answer. It's made to be abstract and to have general ideas, but you can portray it in different ways with different literary devices, and also receive it in different ways through your own life, your experience, and your environment. But they still tend to keep those themes, like you were saying, and I just think that it's important through that. Like I was saying with theater, you can have a general idea, a general theme, but still have all these different perspectives through it.
Mm-hmm. And I think I really love that you were saying that poetry is super interpretive and really abstract. And speaking more on that, I've had a lot of people tell me, what is poetry really? And honestly, what is it? Is it art? Is it literature? Does it have to be subjected and limited to this sort of category? Because expression doesn't have to fit into a category, because subjecting art is limiting to a lot of these things, and especially to poetry. If you just say poetry is literature, it is not art, then that is kind of demeaning to poetry, I feel like, because poetry has so much expressive motive to it. And I think just taking that away from it is just really bad, in my opinion. And so poetry is an art, and I'm so glad that TeenTix is giving it that space to be expressed as an art, regardless of whether people say that it is art or not.
Yeah, I agree. I think people tend to ask questions like, what is poetry? They tend to fit it into a category, and really there is no category. I mean, of course, art, but what is art even? It's just like an expression of what you do, and there's no rules for that. So I just think that poetry itself really doesn't fit in a category, and it's made for you to break the rules. Like whatever category you give it, it's probably going to break the rules within its writing, because that's what it's supposed to do, and it's supposed to make you think about that, and it's supposed to be provocative in that way so that you can really have your own thoughts, own opinions through like abstract and writing that's just not the status quo. At the same time, like with that same theme of categorizing, when you define poetry, it really doesn't work. Like that's how you can see how abstract and interpretive it is, because you really just end up like with circular reasoning, or you just have no words for it. And that's why it really should be art. And art is, again, like not really a quality of something. It's just an expression of yourself. So it's just everything, really, whatever makes you you.
Exactly. Art is whatever makes you, whatever makes you happy, something that's super expressive. And I really love that. And because of that, sometimes poetry can be a little bit incoherent, but It's how you interpret it that makes it more coherent, that makes it super filled with life. And so with interpretations of art in general, you have to view said art. And so a great way to do that is to go to the museums that are right now safely opening, and you can indulge in all of the amazing, fantastic showcases that are up for audiences to enjoy right now.
Yeah, some of these museums that are reopening include Mopop, Sam, Wing Loop, the Fry, the Burke, the Bellevue Art Museum, and Washington State History Museum in Tacoma. Most of them are doing timed reservations currently.
So if you want to go to these museums, then make sure you book a reservation for them. From tattoo culture at Mopop to contemporary native arts at the Washington State History Museum, there's a lot of stuff to go see. So it depends on what your interests are, whether you want to see tattoo culture or native arts, then there's literally anything there for you. The Fry, I think I'll go check this out, has an unsettling femininity collection that describes the portrayal of women and social values through the lens of painting. So if you are into that and exploring new time periods, then the Fry is also another super cool, amazing museum for you to go check out. It's cool to see a lot of these places opening up, obviously with safety and public health in mind first and foremost. So make sure that you are safe, make sure that you are healthy way in advance before you go to check out these museums. A lot of people's livelihoods and passions rely on art, and it is very cool to see people's passions and work being reflected through these museums. I myself am not a frequenter of museums, but I think just looking at these museums, I will definitely go see a couple of these. But I really commend all of these people for working through these really harrowing times and producing such amazing artwork. So you should definitely go check them out. But like I said before, be safe while doing it. Wear a mask. Yeah. Just wear a mask. It's so easy. Just do it.
Yeah, definitely. And as you know, I'm definitely a proponent of themes and expressing yourself in abstract ways. So I'm open to all art. But I haven't been to, I feel like I should have been to more of these museums more often. The main one I have been to is the Northwest African American Museum, or NAM. And really, I enjoy it so much because of all its political power. It's somewhere that represents the history of the Seattle area that people don't usually find. And I really had no idea where it was before my mom worked there. But now I do, and I just realized how much it really makes a difference. I went through the youth curator program there as well, and it was just amazing to empower the types of people who are represented in that museum. And I just realized more, I just learned about more historical icons who I just had no idea. And there's so much to learn from their space and the education you get through that. So that's the main one I've been to, and I just really enjoy it so much. So there's a lot of reason to go to museums that you haven't seen before, because they'll teach you so much that you just had no idea was even there, even within the history of the place that you feel like you've known so well because you lived there.
And kind of like you said, taking this initiative to go by yourself is a very interesting way to figure out your identity, because you don't know a lot of the stuff that is being portrayed at these museums. And so if you go, you don't know what you're going to find out, because art is a very interesting way of learning more about yourself and more about other people through expression. And the way that it's portrayed through art is just so limitless. So you could find out so much stuff at these museums you don't even know until you go. So I completely suggest that you do.
I feel like museums are really important, but they're underrepresented, really, because there's like people think about museums and they think that you just go and you sit and you look at art. And that's honestly part of it, but still there's a lot less structure than that. You can do so much more. And it's not as engaging as other arts as most people see it, but it actually does engage you in a different way. Again, with less structure, you can have all this freedom in the way that you interact and appreciate it. And it's not all for people who like to overanalyze things and think about the little details. It's also a story, and it's told through different mediums, through different paintings. it tells stories about history and identity, and it's a big part of our culture and how we educate ourselves and others.
And kind of like you said, the way of education, I think, is super important right now, especially because right now, I mean, or maybe through the summer, I would have been vacationing somewhere or going somewhere and like visiting new places and learning more about them. And we couldn't do that because of the pandemic. And I'm so excited that these museums are finally opening because we can't travel, we can't go places, but these museums are kind of right in our cornerstone, like right where we are home. And so we can learn about the world, we can see the world, we can see different perspectives without even like becoming dangerous or getting sick. And so it's really important because these museums are also trying everything in their power to make it as safe for us to view art and to see all of this stuff that we love so much.
We should definitely appreciate that and go take advantage of it and go see it. And I feel like a lot of people are doing that right now, and before them they were definitely going to go see visual art. But there's also a lot of people who drive to other art forms and other experiences. And a common place to see that is to see dance and ballet is the Pacific Northwest Ballet, of course. And they just released a recording of a new performance called Rep 1.
You will definitely like Rep 1 if you like ballet, or even if you're open to just any dance or you want to just try something new and see something new. You for sure are going to like the Pacific Northwest Ballet's performance. If you're more interested in ballet, definitely check out Rep 1. You may have heard of the Pacific Northwest Ballet, or PNB, before. It's dance performances, mainly the Nutcracker. I've seen it there a couple times before. I can attest to that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've also seen it there too. And they have a lot of interesting... I've also seen a few other ballet performances, which is a new art form for me, but I was really excited to see those kinds of things. And I'm sure the dancers are excited too, because they finally got a chance to perform on stage again. But they also mentioned in the first few minutes that I've seen of this show that they said they were trained for performing for in-person performances, not recordings of performances, which is such an interesting thing because, you never think about that part, and that part of like sometimes you have to improvise a little and you have to show your emotions through the dance and be more attentive in that way versus like following a script and showing the camera. However, you have to communicate to your audience through looking at a camera, and that's really interesting. But they're still really excited to be able to even have this opportunity.
And a lot of these performances you've probably seen before. There's Swan Lake and Mopi and Jules. All of these performances and more are being featured in the Rep 1. It's kind of like a medley of performances, if you'd like to think about it that way. It's an amazing chance to see these performances once again, and some of them haven't even been shown for a very long time, and they're just being performed. So definitely check it out. I think you're going to really love it. I love to dissect music and dance, and I was a dancer. I danced for like 9 years, and I recently quit. It's super cool to kind of see these dances being put out, and I'm definitely just going to cozy up in my bed, maybe grab a hot chocolate and some cookies, and just sit down and like really relate to this ballet and watch it, and I think it's going to be a super fun experience.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note, I definitely would enjoy this show personally, but even if you're not someone who commonly watches dances and who looks at that kind of art to analyze and to appreciate, you'll still love this art if you're just an appreciator of art, which is really everyone, because art is just expression, which can be in so many different forms. It's a good way to challenge yourself, because not a lot of people think about ballet as a way to analyze and think about what their message really is, but it has a message just like poetry, just like theater, and they're just showing it a different way, and it shows how they have these two different aspects of it, because they have to physically train themselves and be able to make the performance seamless and make it look really casual and nonchalant for them to just be dancing and turning and twirling all the time. And there's all those aspects of it, and being able to coordinate with a stage partner too. That takes a long time to master, and it's physically challenging. But there's also the mental aspect of it, which is tested because you have to act too. You have to think about every single action you make as something, as a part of a story and as an emotion too. You don't just act, but you show people what you're feeling too. So you have to mentally be in character, just like theater. And it's really harder in that way, in my opinion, because you have to physically be ready and have mastered every single move already, but you also have to mentally be skilled in showing your message and how and like what your character is supposed to feel.
Mm-hmm. And with all of these performances going on, it's a great way to showcase the talent that a lot of these actors and dancers have. And TeenTix is a great way of looking at this stuff. Like, TeenTix has a fantastic lineup of all sorts of events, from the ballet to all of the visual arts that are going on, and plays, and literally so much more in the future. You should definitely go check out. If there's any genre or specific event that you want to see, I am going to 100% clarify that there is something for you. You might learn something new about yourself, or something that you didn't even know about the genre. So you should definitely go check out the TeenTix lineup of the partner events and really look at them. Maybe just one or two, or you can look at all of them. Either one is really great, but just taking the time to really view these events and give the artists the appreciation they deserve during these times is something that you should definitely go check out and do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and building on that, I just feel like TeenTix is a great way to just learn something new about yourself, or further your interests that you've already figured out yourself, mainly because they're categorized. The arts events are categorized. So if you just know kind of like, oh, I kind of want to learn a little bit more about dance, or I really like dance and I want to go see some dance shows, it's already made easy for you because everything that's related to dance is together. And you can see things like the P&B, but along with all these other dance performances in one spot. And that's really cool to be able to explore your interests and further them in different ways, find new art forms that you didn't know you liked.
Mm-hmm. And the craziest thing about this is that you can view these events for only $5 if you have a TeenTix pass. And that is super amazing. Like, if I had known that like some time ago when I didn't have my TeenTix pass, I would have been like, are you crazy? Because that is really crazy. You can also see what other people think about these pieces as well within our TeenTix blog monthly reviews. As I said before, Carolyn and I are part of the press corps, and so you can look at all of our reviews and many other press corps teens reviews online at the TeenTix blog.
Yeah, we're part of the newsroom, so if you want to check out our teen perspective and others' teen perspectives, then you should check out the TeenTix blog. We've both written a lot of pieces there.
Mm-hmm. If you want to check out what I wrote, then you can search for the Moulin Rouge musical movie and the Temporary Occupancy, an online virtual experience.
I wrote for John Lewis, Good Trouble, and a collaborative Seattle Times article about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
We have also both written for the Colorization Collective, so you should definitely check out both of those articles and many more to come up on TeenTix in the future.
Thank you for tuning in to the TeenTix Arts Podcast at Ground Zero Radio, where we listen to be heard. I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Disha. Join TeenTix again next month to find out what's on tap.
The Teen Arts Podcast is a part of the TeenTix Press Corps Newsroom, which works to connect teens to art journalism opportunities.
Music by the Steve Griggs Ensemble, produced through the Jack Straw Artist Support Program. A huge thanks to the Teen Programs Manager at TeenTix, Mariko Nagashima.
You can find us on teentix.org/blog. That's TEENTIX.org/blog. Thanks for listening.